What's going on, everybody? I hope you're having an unbelievable week. It's Justin Jackson here once again. Crazy weather, open seating, free tickets. Didn't stop our Tar Heels from dominating NC State last night, winning 97-73 in the Dean Dome. Crowd was roaring. I think that was one of the loudest games I've seen, and just watching it through the TV when it comes to the way the fans were supporting. And you could tell the players really did feed off of that. When I say domination, this is a game that started off, NC State scored a couple buckets, and then North Carolina went on a 10-0 run to eventually take a 16-6 lead going into a timeout, and then eventually built the lead up to as much as 30 points and never really went under 20. So when I watch this, you look at the way that they played in that first half where they really put the game out of reach basically. NC State was held to 36% from the field and 20% from three, which is a testament to just their level of attention going into this type of rivalry game. I think there was three main areas that, as I watched the game, made me realize that this was the most complete, best game that they've played all year. The first one for me is the cohesiveness of this team playing as a complete unit from the jump. There was really no times in the game where it seemed like, oh, one player is getting out of, what they were supposed to be doing for the team, or, it looked like one guy wasn't in rotation where they were supposed to be. Consistently throughout the entire game, there was a cohesiveness that I really haven't necessarily seen for a complete game all year. There was certain situations where there was a different level of communication. There was a couple times Seth was calling out the defenses and calling out what they were supposed to do as they were getting back on defense after a score. There were certain times where you saw RJ and Elliott getting guys into position on offense to be where they're supposed to be able to execute on that end. So watching that, I think they kind of told on themselves as far as being able to be that kind of full team and unit going forward. The second area, which is the area that I've wanted to see consistency all year long, is intensity and competitiveness. When you look at those numbers in the first half, you could say, oh, NC State didn't shoot the ball well, or, North Carolina threw a little press at them and maybe they weren't ready for it. But for basically an entire 40 minutes, North Carolina was the hardest playing team on that floor at all times. That also goes to the way that they were able to play defense, pressure. You saw a lot more press and a lot more pressure, causing turnovers, getting out and being able to get out into, making that into 15 points off of those turnovers. It looked like the UNC teams of old. You heard a lot of that from the broadcast from Jay Billis, and it looks like the old UNC teams from the standpoint of dominating in the rebounds, where UNC beat NC State 40-21, causing turnovers and getting out in transition. It was almost as if every time I looked up at the screen, they were out in transition scoring or getting something good at the rim. So seeing that type of intensity and competitiveness all game long proves to me that if they're the hardest playing team game in and game out, they always give themselves a chance to beat whoever it is they're on the floor with. And the third area that I think, honestly, going back to the last two games, the game against Syracuse and now against NC State, is the shooting. Against Syracuse, against that zone, they shot 13 for 28 from three last night, which they really didn't need to shoot a ton of shots from the outside, but they shot 8 for 20. So going 40% or above in the last two games has allowed everything else to be way more free, way more open. Driving lanes are more open. Guys inside are way more, going one on one a lot more, a lot more than they, have been, because of the way that these teams have been able to load up and defensively help off of certain guys. So going forward, seeing this kind of game that they played against NC State, a rivalry, winning by the most points that North Carolina has won against NC State since my last year in school, when we won by 24 at their place. watching the way that they played in those throwback uniforms, those throwback whites that I'm sure everybody loves to see. That's the UNC team that we've been waiting to see for an entire 40 minutes. And that's the UNC team that I truly believe going down this stretch can make a run, can get to the NCAA tournament, play well in the ACC tournament, and then who knows what happens. But if they're able to play the way that they played consistently last night, this team is dangerous.